Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to virtual Dire Literary Series meeting tonight on a Friday. And I'm very pleased to be welcoming our feature tonight. And our feature has a wonderful bio that we'll just paraphrase, but Lawrence has done a lot. Lawrence Kessenich is a fiction writer, poet, playwright, essayist, reviewer, and editor. His first novel, Cinnamon Girl, which was published in 2016 and featured at Live Dire way back when. The second novel, which is the new one, The Further Adventures of Daisy Miller, is scheduled to be released by Pierian Springs Press, and it's already out, I believe.
It's available, yes.
Available and it's out. He's won some short stories. He's won a lot of awards. He has 6 books of poetry. He won the People's Choice Award in a national drama competition. His full-length play, Anne Frank Lives, was performed at a festival in New York City. He was featured in NPR's This I Believe. He appears in the anthology This I Believe on Love. Lawrence is from Wisconsin. I love this part of it. When he worked in the editorial department of Houghton Mifflin in Boston, he edited Shoeless Joe for the basis of the movie Field of Dreams, for which he and his wife Janet appeared on screen as extras. So, Lawrence, I've known Lawrence for many years, and I'd like to turn it over to him and welcome him.
Thank you very much, Tim. I really appreciate your inviting me here. Excuse me, and thank all of you for coming out, as Tim said, on a Friday night. Not your average Friday night entertainment, so I really appreciate it. So I'm just going to read, I could give you a lot of background on this. You don't have to have read Daisy Miller to be able to read this novel. But I highly recommend it for anybody who hasn't. It's a wonderful short novel, and I won't get into my reason for writing it. We'll hope that'll come out in the question and answer period. So I will just read, and I'm going to start right from the beginning. First of all, because I hate to, give away things that happen later, but also because it connects it to Daisy Miller, to that story, and how Daisy got herself where she is in this novel. So it's done in alternating voices. Daisy and Winterbourne, who is the man who's in love with her but can't quite figure out if he can deal with her. So the first section is Daisy. Mr. James was wrong. I did not die of the Roman fever, although I was indeed deathly ill for some time. He must have left Rome assuming I was on my way out of this world, but I was far from done with my adventures. I faced down the fever just as I'd faced down Mrs. Walker after she snubbed me at her party, not long before I got ill. It did wound me in the moment, I will admit, but I ain't one to dwell on small slights. Heaven knows it would have been like the Chinese death by 1,000 cuts if I had dwelt on the way my fellow Americans treated me in Rome. I am proud to be an American from Schenectady, New York, but sometimes I find my countrymen puritanical to a disturbing degree. What is to be gained from suppressing every natural instinct in order to uphold a completely arbitrary set of rules about how to behave? As I see it, God gave us life to live it, not to hedge it about on all sides with unnecessary rules. I enjoy the company of men, many and various men. I enjoy being alone with them, and I believe I ought to be trusted to do that. That said, I am not naive, though many, including Mr. Winterbourne, think me so. I am well aware of the lustful desires men harbor, and always firmly discourage them from acting on those desires. I also carry a Derringer pistol in case I encounter a man unwilling to be discouraged. It has not happened yet, because I am usually able to read men and so avoid the type, but I am not foolish enough to think it couldn't happen. So I go about prepared, but I go about as I wish and will not stop doing so. When the doctor had done all he could and I started to recover from the Roman fever, Mother nursed me back to health. Unlike me, Mother is hopelessly adrift in society, but in our rooms where she is comfortable, she is capable of great love and care, as is my father back home. I do miss Papa so. I believe it is their love and care throughout my childhood that gave me the belief in myself, the confidence to move about in society on my own terms. And perhaps Mother's lack of awareness about how society functions prevented my becoming a victim of its petty prescriptions. Father is also a man of the world, and I believe I imbibed his confidence in that sphere. So I am comfortable among people, even those who may not be comfortable with me. And as I recovered from the Roman fever, I found myself once again wanting to be among new and interesting people. Another impression given by Mr. James was that I was only interested in spending time with men. I will admit I have the usual desire of a young woman that age to be admired and entertained by men, perhaps even an unusual level of that desire. But I also value female companionship. Mr. James didn't bother to chronicle my outings with female friends, perhaps because it didn't serve the purpose of showing a woman disobedient to the rules of male-female companionship, getting her just desserts. But I had at the time and continue to have many female friends. After all, what is the good of spending time with men if you can't discuss them with your female friends afterward? Not that, by any means, men are all we talk about, as much as men might wish they were our sole concern. Life is too rich a feast to focus on one dish. 2. Winterborn. Mr. James got it wrong, or otherwise altered the facts to suit his story. When I left Rome, Daisy Miller was still alive, though she was reportedly so ill that it was assumed she would pass on shortly. I traveled to Paris to distract myself from her impending death with opera and theater and music, because what I thought was her parting message about not being engaged had made me realize that I was in love with her, despite her mad disregard for social norms, deeply in love with her. She had a freshness and uncompromising belief in her own instincts that I found fascinating, that made me question whether or not I was truly self-confident and sincere in my own dealings with others. But I was enough of a creature of Boston society and of the Swiss society in which I had spent a good portion of my life to realize that there could be no future with a woman who lived so far outside the norms of that society. I was a man of my place and time and was not mentally equipped to challenge those norms as she did. Still, when I learned that Daisy Miller was still alive, my heart leapt. My aunt, Mrs. Costello, sent a letter full of outrage that God had let such a creature endure on the earth, by which she meant her particular corner of the earth, when much more civilized women died daily. It had almost shaken her faith in the Almighty. But I must admit that it strengthened my faith. Perhaps God appreciated such creatures more than we did. The thought that Miss Miller still walked the earth thrilled me more than I wanted to admit. I only wished that I could have achieved a godlike tolerance for her behavior. If I had, I would have hurried back to her in Rome immediately. As it was, I consoled myself with the thought that God had removed me from a place of temptation, where I might have involved myself too deeply with an ungovernable creature, one sure to bring discord into my life. That's it.
Oh, very nice. Good to see you. Great excerpt from your book. And so I guess the real question is, and we'll get to your question that you asked yourself, which I was dying to hear about. But like you're working with a character developed by Henry James. Was it fun to expand or intimidating? Or
No, it was fun. I was I was so ticked off at him for killing her at the end of the book that I was more than happy to take over for him. But anyway, I was not attempting to, match him or be him. I was trying to at least capture a little bit of the tone of the era, slightly more formal, but I was not trying to write like Henry James.
Is that why you wrote the book? Because you were mad that she was killed?
Oh, I was so mad because the way she died felt like punishment for her being so independent. And that made me very angry. And so I wanted to bring her back to life and let her live out this life, because for me, I mean, some people read that book and just say, oh, she's just a flirt. But to me, there's so much, really, they did. There's so much more going on with her because she is to me, her independence is a natural outgrowth of her true nature. She's not trying to, she's not trying to put something over on society. She's not trying to be a rebel. She's just being herself. And that is the way people respond to her. So I just loved her as a character.
Was it helpful to know the character before writing the character? Because I'm sure there are many of your other books and projects that, you did it from scratch.
Right, right. No, it was great. I mean, because she had made such a strong impression on me, it was really enjoyable to try to speak in her voice and really capture her. And yes, it definitely made a difference that he had given me so much material to work from in Daisy Miller.
Now, I know sometimes when you write and you're in the middle of writing, books will end up creating themselves or going paths that you do not wish them to happen. Is there a parallel universe that Daisy dies in your book as well? And or did and or your choice of answers, did the book take a turn on its own where it was directing you and was it difficult to stay true to the character if that was the case?
Yeah, no, I mean, stayed true to the character as I imagined her. Um, and she gets involved with, women's rights, which actually wasn't something I planned to happen. It just sort of developed naturally out of the story. And but as it did, it just seemed completely natural, and to me expressed what I was trying to. I mean, to me, it expressed the serious quality that I thought she had, that the people who think she's just a flirt didn't see, and that's the part I wanted to bring out.
What about do you have any expectations that, maybe the Henry James Society would come after you or try to be like, this isn't true? Like, how dare you? Did that cross your mind at all?
Oh no, I never thought of anything like that. I don't think they'll bother, but the publisher is considering me, because Daisy Miller's obviously in the public domain now. He's considering putting out an edition that will have Daisy Miller in the front, and this is one of the appendices in the back, to the book, a modern take on her, or contemporary take on her. So that would be wonderful. I would love that.
That sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're very, very well-rounded. So let's talk about some of your other skills in terms of plays, essays, poems, and these novels. With everything going on in the world, take that as you will. Which of those forms do you think can be the most influential or make the most mark on what's going on?
That's an interesting thought. Well, I will tell you the first one that I have used to make a statement on that is I just recently wrote a 10-minute play. I read a lot of those, and I've had a lot of them performed at festivals, called The Execution of Mayor Pete. And the idea of it is that Pete Buttigieg, what happened was I sort of thought, what if Trump really becomes a dictator? I mean, fully. That I thought Pete Buttigieg would be the kind of person who would lead a resistance to that. which of course, in that situation would lead to him being arrested and put in prison. And then I remembered I don't know if you've ever read the Brothers Karamazov, but there's a wonderful chapter in there called The Grand Inquisitor, which is a story that a character in the book made up. And what happens in that is Jesus comes back during the Spanish Inquisition, and of course he gets arrested as a radical. And the Grand Inquisitor comes to visit him in prison. And they have this dialogue, and it's mostly the Grand Inquisitor saying, well, we're going to kill you because you're a nuisance, but we don't really have to, because people they won't want your message. They don't want freedom. They want somebody to tell them what to do. And that's what the Catholic Church does. Well, this kind of, I was inspired by that. And so there's this, Trump comes to see him in prison, and they have this dialogue about, what's going to happen and what the American people are like. And so, and it's funny because I was looking for, I always keep my eye out for contests. There are a lot of times you can find things on the internet where you can submit plays. And a theater company in Santa Rosa, California is doing a festival whose theme is tyranny. So
Interesting.
if they don't want it, nobody's going to want it. So we'll
Do you
see what
think
happens.
if this continues, things like that and other books will be banned and viewed as anti-American because we can
Oh,
go there?
oh, absolutely. I mean, I have never before written something, and before I sent it out, suddenly thought, well, this could really get me in serious trouble someday. It's possible. It could happen. So we'll see. We'll
Uh,
see.
Phil has the statement, but I'll see if I can form it into a question. Phil says, I see a lot of interesting parallels with your protagonist and landowner and industrialist Anne Lister from the early 19th century. Was there any consideration of that besides?
No, I don't know. I don't know of her, unfortunately.
But yeah, Phil says that it's 19th century England for which a popular television series, Gentleman Jack, was based.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard of that, but it was on a streaming thing I don't get, so I never was able to watch it.
So like when Phil has these statements and we're going to form questions like Jeopardy, like who was
Sorry about that. It was more of a statement than a question.
who was Ann Lister? Gabby Gilliam writes, are there any other characters whose story you're drawn to tell more of, like you did with Daisy?
Well, you mentioned I only written a couple of full-length plays, and one of them is called Anne Frank Lives, or Anna Frank Lives. That's how she actually pronounced her name. And that was inspired by the fact I was just, to me, it's especially as a writer, it was so devastating to realize that someone who could write that well at that young an age was murdered simply because she was Jewish, period. That was it. That was the only reason. And it just, the tragedy of that struck me. And so I started imagining, well, what would she have been like if she had survived? And that's basically what the play is about.
Yeah,
Uh,
I wonder how many wonderful writers are now in our U.S. concentration camps right now.
yeah.
And that's what I call
Yeah.
them. They're nothing
Yeah.
more. Um,
Yeah.
Ruth
And
has,
I was just going to say one more. And another, I also wrote a chapbook, a series of poems based on Pearl, the character in the daughter in The Scarlet Letter. And what I decided with her is at the very end of the novel, they sail off to England, which I had completely forgotten in the years between when I read that in high school and then when I read it to write this. They go off to England. And so because of the way she grew up, always having to live in her own imagination and make up characters, I decided she would become a playwright. And I actually checked it out. There were couple of successful female playwrights in that era in London. So that's part of the perspective of the way what things she talks about in the chapbook, the series of poems. So
Ruth.
I do like bringing people back to life, or extending their lives.
Ruth has a question, and these are obviously people that have read your book, which is wonderful. Daisy's voice sounds so right from the start. How hard was it to find it? And she also wonders if you were tempted to marry her off to Winterbourne.
Well, I mean, well, I won't talk about the end, but anyway, I do leave it ambiguous at the end. We don't know. No, I was not tempted to make it a final kind of ending. And as to her voice, again, I think Henry James gives her such a strong voice in Daisy Miller that it felt natural to be able to carry it on. And that voice affected me so strongly. And of course, Winterbourne's kind of I can't remember even now his third person, but anyway, it's from his point of view. So his voice was also strong for me. So I found it pretty natural to continue with them.
All right. So you did the editing work for Houghton Mifflin. Was it line editing or revisional editing?
It was revising, what do they call substantive editing rather than copy editing. But of course, when you're editing, if you see something wrong or you do edit it, but the copy editors go much deeper. They really, go word by word. Mine was generally at a higher level.
So I'm glad that you answered it that way because I've got the follow-up question. Now, when you watch the movie Field of Dreams for the first time, were you looking for any of your edits?
No,
The line is mine.
he did a lot of editing, and I mean, I'll be very honest here. I was a very young editor. It was one of the first books I edited, brought in and then edited, and I think I could have done a better job. And I think that he really gets the essence of the story in the movie, which is one of the things I really like about it. So,
Also, what scene were you an extra in?
when they're in Fenway Park, and James Earl Jones and Kevin Costner are sitting next to each other. You look down the row. First, you see my wife. I mean, you have to know what you're looking for and
Yes.
know what she looks like. It's not like she's immense, but she's there. And then at one point, James Earl Jones leans forward and you can see me. And I actually also at one point leaned over and kissed her, and it actually got on camera. So
Oh,
our
awesome.
love will live forever.
Now, the game footage they used against
Mhm.
Oakland was a game that I actually attended.
Oh, you're kidding. So that was the night before. That was
Yes.
the night before the filming. Oh man,
Because I
cool.
remember watching the movie like this. Oh, I was at this game because this is what they showed us.
That's
Um,
funny.
we have got a question from DeWitt. I hope that Everett's James is a revision of Huck Finn, has paved the way for your wonderful and witty revision extension of Jay-Z with a wide readership. Oh, that's more of good wishes.
Thank you, DeWitt. I appreciate it. I hope so too. Unfortunately, he's probably not quite as popular as Huck Finn, but
What's your favorite genre to write in, and which gives you the most satisfaction when it's finished?
wow.
For
That's
poetry, you have to say a whole book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is some tremendous satisfaction in finishing something as long as a novel. But I have to say that as far as the experience of your own work, there is nothing that beats theater where your characters literally come alive on stage. I mean, it's just it's a thrill every single time to see what the director does with it, what the actors do with it, and just to see how people embody the characters and how they interpret the lines, and it's just I absolutely love it. So I would say that's probably the most fun and exciting thing, because most of the time, I mean, you don't see people reading your books, I mean, you don't see their reactions to it. That's another thing. I mean, when you have a live play, you actually have the reaction of the audience as well. So I'd say that's the most thrilling thing to experience as
Maybe
well.
we need a TikTok for books so people can read them and then do a dance.
I like
I
that.
don't know. Um, so have you ever been disappointed about how one of your characters was portrayed, or the voice wasn't how you imagined it, just anything like idiosyncratic like that?
Almost never. I mean, it's amazing. The only time that something was interpreted differently, I absolutely loved it because I'd written this play about a couple who have lost a son, and I used to do some bereavement counseling, and one of the things I learned there was that 80% of marriages where a child dies end up breaking up. And so the play was written showing these two people grieving in their separate ways, and they only came together briefly in the middle of the play. This is only a 10-minute play, but anyway, they come together briefly in the play. And the first time it was done, that's pretty much, it felt like they were separated. It felt like they were grieving separately, and you weren't sure if they were, really together anymore. The second time it was done, which was over at Hovey Theater in Waltham, somehow the director, the way she moved them around and the way they interacted with each other, you felt like they were in it together. And I didn't even know that was possible, in the play. So that was amazing, and I loved it, even though it was different from what I had in mind. And that's generally my feeling about theater. I like to see what they're going to do with it because they add their own dimension to it.
A question from Phil. When you write a screenplay, how involved are you in shaping the character, or do you leave or give the director artistic freedom to interpret your character?
Yeah, well, you pretty much have to. I mean, they're going to do it whether you give them permission or not. And as I say, I like it. I really like seeing what they bring out in things, because they will bring out things that I didn't even think of being there, or didn't even imagine being there. And they will make lines uh, have a sort of extra meaning that I never saw. So yeah, I'm very open to it. I'm not one of these people who holds on like that and wants it to be exactly the way I pictured it. It's much more fun to just let go and enjoy whatever they do with it.
Have you tried writing for television or movies?
I have written a couple of scripts. I've never got anywhere with them, but one was based on a short story. I can't remember what the other one is based on, but anyway, I really enjoyed writing them. There's a spareness to them that's really nice, and also when you're a writer who's used to having to create everything in words, it's wonderful just to be able to say, show a shot of this, and that's all I have to say. And it's up to them to shape that and make it happen. So it's kind of a little bit more relaxing to me to write that than to have to create everything in words.
From Robert, for a new play, in terms of protagonist motivations, what do you think the audience care about now, or is it pretty much do they care about what they've always cared about?
Yeah, I don't think it changes that much. I mean, I think most people want believable characters that they can relate to. They want the emotional situations to be genuine. They want to care. I mean, they want to care about what's happening. They don't want you to do something they're going to feel indifferent about. They want to be involved. They want to, have their emotions involved, I think.
All right, let's move back to the book briefly because we've picked your brain on everything else. But the further adventures of Daisy Miller. How did it feel when you finished? Was it easy to? Some books are easier to start, and some are easier to finish.
Yeah.
Was it given that you had a frame of reference? Which was it with this one?
Well, it was definitely easy to start, but in a way, the ending was easy too, because I got to it and I didn't really I didn't understand until it happened that that was the end, you know. And but as soon as I had him take this action at the very end, I said, that's it. We're not gonna tie this up in a bow. We're gonna leave it open as to what really and ultimately is gonna happen between these two.
From what you read and also what you've told us, it sounds like a fantastic, fascinating book. So make sure you
Thank
you
you.
buy it. It's in if for folks that are interested. It's at all of the main outlets, also bookshop.org. So check out the further adventures of Daisy Miller by uh, Lawrence Kessenich.
Kessenich. Yeah, that's
Kessenich. All
yeah.
right, and also thank you so much for being with us. And the folks that are watching in the stream, thanks for joining us. We're going to cut you off right now, but if you want to be part of the open mic, just use the Zoom link. And here is the book for those that are wondering. It's a wonderful cover, and it's available in hard copy and also paperback. So there it is on the Pierian Springs Press website. Thanks again, Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Tim. It was a pleasure.